M&A Advisor is happy to have Dr. Kristin Winford, CEO of Mesirow Financial Consulting, with us right now. Kristin, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Mesirow and what your role is.
I'm Chief Operating Officer for Mesirow Financial Consulting, and we're a full-service financial advisory services firm. We focus on restructurings, bankruptcies, litigations, large-scale investigations, and contested valuation.
You're involved in a very interesting panel today about leadership roles and, what it takes to make a great leader, what it doesn't, mistakes that are made. Talk to us about maybe being down in the trenches a little bit and what was learned in the trenches.
I think the panelists were wonderful, and I think really what they were able to focus on is sort of the key issues that you need to deal with in a crisis situation, which I think are somewhat universal for all leaders. They need to be transparent, they need to over-communicate, they need to really understand that in any crisis situation, the majority of the employees' issues are going to boil down to one simple thing, which is the me issues. So being able to address that, get information out, give them a sense that while there may be chaos at present, there's a plan in place, we're going to be dealing with it, and hopefully we're going to come out at the other end in a far better place.
And part of being a good leader is to ask for help in time, so they need to, ask for the help before it's too late.
Absolutely, and leaders as a part of this have to create sort of the shared vision and mission. So why are we in this together? What does this mean for us? I'm here with you, that type of thing. And so I think for what we heard today, we have some wonderfully experienced leaders who've been in some of the largest restructurings and turnarounds in the U.S. history, and they've done a fabulous job.
It's kind of hard to admit, I would think, for a lot of folks, even when you're in trouble, that maybe you weren't as effective as a leader you can be. So how do they take this advice? Are they a little resistant for the most part, or most of them are like, yeah, we're in a bad spot and we really need your help now?
I think, as we heard on the panel today, that by the time these folks typically get involved, there's no denying that they are in deep crisis. And in fact, in some ways, that makes the job a little bit easier of getting them to see reality. I think leaders as a whole have to be vigilant that they are not surrounding themselves by yes men or women, that they're not creating their own reality and denying what the rest of the world sees as the reality of a company, a situation, a leadership challenge, et cetera. And there's a number of ways that they can do that, but it is something that you have to constantly guard against.
You talked about what makes a good leader being communication, great communication, and transparency. So what do you see as kind of a common thread with leaders who are not so strong?
In many ways, it's the inverse. It's the inability to create the shared mission and vision, so people are very unclear as to what they're supposed to be doing and why they're doing it. It's the inability to be transparent and to perhaps be deceptive. It is a lack of communication. It's a lack of self-awareness. Emotional intelligence in leadership is a key issue, and if you're not able to be aware of your strengths and aware of where you might need to bolster and get some support, it creates a very chaotic dynamic in most organizations.
And in this economic climate right now, what makes it more difficult for companies, as they become distressed?
I think what we saw coming out of 2008, and I'll kind of bring it forward, what we saw coming out of 2008 is that you had a lot of leaders who were beholden to a multitude of stakeholders, public companies, shareholders, employees, and the like, institutional investors. And trying to serve too many masters created some really interesting organizational dynamics. And I think as we've gone through the recovery period and are now focusing on hopefully a more stable environment, it's really being clear on what that mission and vision is and the constituency that you need to represent, as opposed to perhaps trying to be all things to all people.
Makes sense. We talked about the characteristics of a great leader. Are there any companies that you could point out that have done it right? They turned things around because they did everything they were supposed to? Or would you like to speak more generally on that?
I think generally what needs to occur is really that constant self-assessment, both organizationally as well as leaders as individuals, really understanding where your market is, where your customers are, where your employees are, what we need to be doing different, what we need to be doing better, and really having an honest, transparent conversation at the leadership level, so to constantly challenge each other as leaders. Is this the right thing? Should we be considering something else? Is there disruptive technology out there that we need to be on the forefront of dealing with? Complacency kills, and I think that the companies that are continually undergoing a process of self-awareness and strategic review certainly have a leg up.
Well, you said you don't want to surround yourself with yes men or yes women,
right.
And that's so key, but you can see how that might happen.
Oh, absolutely. And statistics show that, CEOs between 10 and 12 years of tenure, really do tend to get much more insulated because they've been in the role a long time.
Right.
They've more than likely been effective if they've been in the role that long. They think they understand the market, they understand the constituencies, they understand the decisions that they're making, and studies have shown that they become much more myopic in their viewpoints. And so really, again, continuing to challenge and surrounding yourself by people who aren't afraid to be direct and be clear, and creating a culture where retaliation, is not a part of the reaction when someone says something that you don't like is really, really key for leaders.
Kristin, you've given us great insight. Thank you so very much for
Thank
joining us
you.
today. Appreciate it.